Hello and welcome to my channel, Inspiring Life Changes. My name is Colette and I'm here today to do the new moon in Aquarius reading for the collective. This is my interpretation of the energies that are happening at this time in the astrological world, shall we say, out there in the bigger picture of the sky, and how it's affecting us down here on the earth plane. And so this reading, which I write out first and then I read it off my laptop, and also may add other bits and pieces that come through as I'm doing the reading, is the new moon in Aquarius, and it's the quickening is here. And for anybody who's interested in finding out about their own astrological birth chart makeup, if you don't already know your birth chart, then there will be a link in the description box down below for you to go and check that out for yourselves, because I believe it really helps, especially at this time that we're going through, to have a bigger understanding of what is affecting you personally on an astrological level. So this reading, as I just said, is called the new moon in Aquarius. The quickening is here. It's all about the accelerating energy that we're just entering, or we kind of entered with our Cancer full moon, but it's really kind of gathering a pace now, and things are going to change in very big ways. So before I forget, I'm going to do the cards for this Aquarius new moon. We have the new moon energy, which is all about new beginnings, fresh starts, something happening, planting a seed, giving it time to grow. And that's another thing about the new moon, is it's always a good time to plant that seed, because seeds need darkness in which to germinate and come to fruition. And then we have so there's a bit of water on this one, the fixed moon energy. Hold your vision, so don't give up on something. If you've got dreams or ideas, creative plans, this is saying don't give up, even if they haven't come to fruition yet. Hold that vision. Don't give up. Very fixed energy. And lastly, we have the new moon in Aquarius, which is saying bring love into the situation, which is never a bad thing. But I would also say that for Aquarius energy, it's also about connecting with your higher self, really. Connecting with the higher energies, opening to your conscious awareness, opening your conscious awareness is really what, for me, the Aquarius energy is all about. So before I start the reading, I would also like to pull one card from the Animal Spirit deck, which I've been trying to do on a kind of regular basis of all the new and full moons that I've been doing. So let's see what we get for this new moon for the collective. What is the animal energy that best fits with this new moon collective energy, please? There we go. We get, I think we got this one last time, Sandpiper Spirit, Be Playful. Seem to remember that coming out before. Number 51. Oops. 51. And it's basically about enjoying, if I can remember rightly. It says, sandpipers are like cute little clowns, poking their beaks into the sand before darting off to chase the waves. The appearance of Sandpiper Spirit is a sign that now is a time to engage your playfulness. Whatever tasks you have before you, perform them with a lightness of being. Explore the familiar, discovering the new in the old. Who knows what treasures await you when you let yourself laugh and have fun. Sandpiper Spirit's happy and curious nature can help you to feel rejuvenated as you remember your ability to run and fly and dance playfully. It's very kind of Aquarian air element energy, and there is something actually in my reading about the birds as well, and how I feel that the birds at this time are going to be very kind of strongly, so I'm having trouble with my hair and my glasses, are going to be very strongly affected during this new moon Aquarius energy for the next 2 weeks, this period that we're coming into, and possibly even beyond, but especially during these 2 weeks with this new moon Aquarian energy. Birds being the air element creatures, and I say that because this new moon is supercharged, a supercharged energy, and I think that the animals are already picking up on it. I think that the birds in particular are already picking up on it, even though I know that it is the season for birds to be coming together. They're kind of meeting up, and because the weather's so mild here as well in the UK, it's kind of having a bigger effect on them. But I just think that there's something going on another level out there. So this new moon is taking place at 12 degrees and 19 minutes of the humanitarian, community-oriented, grassroots energy of the fixed sign Aquarius. It is occurring at the very beginning of the month on the 1st of February 2022. In the UK, it will be at 5:45. So it's already happened earlier this morning in the UK, and in other parts of the world it was yesterday on the 31st of January, which means this is the second new moon in January, with the full moon in between. So basically, for those that aren't in the UK or in those parts that are having their new moon today, if you had your new moon yesterday, then you have had 3 moons all in January, which is quite a rare occurrence in itself. So if you have planets or points between the 07 to 17 degrees of Aquarius, at this new moon you are going to be feeling this electrifying energy the most intensely. And I have to say that personally for myself, for the last 2 mornings I have just woken up feeling supercharged, like downloads and all sorts of crazy things happening. So also anyone with anything at those same degrees of the opposing fixed sign of Leo, or the more challenging angle of the 90-degree square for Taurus and Scorpio, so basically all of the fixed signs, all the fixed energies, will also experience these surges of high energy. So check your house placement to see where this new moon is going to take place for you on an individual and personal basis, as this is where the energy will manifest itself in your life. And that's not to say that if you're not a, well, that's not to say that if you're not a fixed sign, therefore you're not going to be affected by it. That's not what it's saying. It's just saying that the fixed signs, because of the angles that they're at with this moon, they are going to be feeling it the most intensely. They will be, especially if they have placements in the fixed sign energy as well. So, but anybody who has planets in those fixed elements will feel this. So for the collective, this is going to be experienced through the themes of the 11th house of friendships, groups, organizations, systems within systems, connecting with our tribe, cutting edge technology, innovative humanitarian vision for the betterment of all humankind, along with networking, the internet, satellite systems, space stations, and our energetic bodies. This is a great manifesting new moon to set your intentions for your future goals. So all of the above, you could hear that things are going down, things are happening within like technology, innovative events taking place. particularly when it comes to networking and anything to do with computers and the internet, and possibly also cyber attacks as well, or at least the possibility of cyber attacks happening as well, of it being spoken about. So the new moon in Aquarius is making some strong connections as it is conjunct Saturn at 15 degrees 30 minutes and square Uranus at 10 degrees 53 in Taurus. While Saturn and Uranus are still continuing to square as well. So now we have the moon in Aquarius conjunct Saturn, and Saturn of course is still squaring that Taurian Uranus energy. So Saturn is the planet of mastery, the great teacher, who although he always works through adversity, he helps us grow through those difficult situations. Saturn teaches us the lessons of action and consequences. Known as the Lord of Karma, he also governs time within the physical realm. He is the steady and stable foundation we need in order to build the success of our lives on. Saturn is also the restrictive, restraining element that holds us back and puts blockages in our way. A side of Saturn we have been experiencing throughout the whole of 2020 and 2021, especially during his retrograde from May to October. He has only recently come out of his shadow period on the 15th of January. So he is now covering completely new and fresh ground in Aquarius. But his energy is also being kind of highlighted and put out there at this time as well. So we could feel some kind of kickback or restrictions kind of being re-spoken about, or even if it doesn't actually come to fruition, it's like bringing up that energy again, bringing out that kind of idea of restrictions and blockages, even if it doesn't actually take place. It's like it hasn't completely been finished or ended yet. So this new moon is a good time to set intentions for grounding something into our reality. Aquarius is a visionary, manifesting, higher consciousness frequency that works through the more ethereal realm of the air element, the higher dimensions of the pure angelic, which is why it is connected to Kundalini energy and the pineal gland and third eye activation. So you could be feeling a lot of energy surges within the kind of mental realm at this time as well, because air rules the mental realm. So there could be a lot of kind of energies, lots of thoughts, kind of non-stop at this time as well, just feeling like overwhelmed with thinking and just kind of like not knowing, not kind of having any space in between those thoughts. So it's just like this constant kind of barrage of like energy taking place. But it is also connected to the Kundalini energy as well. So anybody who's into meditation, yoga, things like that, you could also be feeling kind of shifts within that dimension energetically. So another very interesting connection being made by both the sun and the moon is with a trine to Makemake. And he's sitting at 08 degrees 42 minutes of Libra. And he has recently turned retrograde, so his energy has been very pronounced during his stationary time. So Makemake is a dwarf planet that is known as the higher octave of Saturn, which I have mentioned before. He is the energy of universal cosmic law, as opposed to Saturn's man-made rules and regulations, which are constantly being added to or made up as they go along, as I prefer to call it. So Makemake would come under the principle of the law of the land, or what's known as common law, which is derived from universal principles. So Makemeke is all about those universal cosmic laws, which consists of just 4 understandings. So one of those is do no harm to others, which is also the first maxim of life or magic, which got abused by a certain Mr. Crowley during the 60s, but that's a completely different story. But he did, just by changing a few words in that maxim of do no harm to others, he has changed a lot of what we are experiencing globally at this time, shall we say, because he kind of changed that law to do no harm to others. Well, originally it was do what thou wilt, but do no harm to others in the doing, and he just changed it to do what thou wilt. So basically he took out the fact that you're not supposed to harm anybody else as long as what you're doing doesn't upset or harm anybody else. So by taking that out, and you would be amazed at how big an influence that has had. So going back to these 4 laws, if you like, the second is do not breach the peace. So basically do not upset people just for the sake of annoyance, really. Cause no one any loss, and to not use mischief in your promises and agreements. So they're all very basic laws that we can live by, but unfortunately we have kind of been overrun by these other ideas. And it says in the it says basically, so common law is all about contract and consent. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I think it's going to become very, very prevalent as we move forward through these next months coming. And so this is what it says in Osborne's Concise Law Dictionary. And it says that part of the law of England formulated, developed and administered by the old common law courts, based originally on the common customs of the country and unwritten. It is opposed to equity, the body of rules administered by the Court of Chancery, which is another type of law, to statute law, the law laid down in Acts of Parliament, which are the laws that most of us kind of recognise as laws, which actually aren't. They are just acts, and that's a completely another tangent that I could go off into, but I'm not going to. So it is special law, the law administered in special courts such as ecclesiastical courts law. So that's kind of like the more religious side of the law, and the law merchant, and to the civil law or the law of Rome. It is so basically the common law is the common sense of the community, crystallized and formulated by our forefathers. It is not local law nor the result of legislation. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because of what is happening at this time, or very shortly, with the Pluto return in the US, which is going to be such a huge thing, and how their constitution in the US, or your constitution if you're listening to me in the US, is based on the original common law of the UK. So there's a very strong connection between common law in the UK and the constitutional law, and at this time the constitutional law is under fire. Basically it's kind of being attacked, and this Pluto return has a lot to do with this constitutional law, because the point where Pluto was at that time is the point where he's going to return to now. So natally, when the Constitution was written on the 4th of July, which was when the US got its independence and the Constitution came into being, Pluto is returning to that 27 degrees on the 20th of February. So for me, it's all about this energy at this time, and Makemake, I believe, is playing a huge role in all of this. And I also feel it's a major part of this new moon in Aquarius energy as well, because it is all about freedom. Freedom for the individual, freedom for the collective energy. And this is a trine which is coming from Libra, where Makemake has been slowly regenerating since his inception in 2015. So that's when he first moved into Libra, and he's still there. So this energy from Makemake is coming in from the 5D outer regions of the Kuiper belt, which is where Makemake is. So it's the main wisdom is bringing in that inner knowing of interconnectedness with all of life around us. And he's been kind of doing this during this time period, and at the same time he's been helping to upgrade Saturn in the 3D through their own long ongoing dance of being connected. And this started with a sextile when Makemake first moved into Libra. Saturn was at the early degrees of Sagittarius, and he then traversed 3 times due to a retrograde in late May, early August, and the two of them met up again in early April. And this time they met up in a tension-filled square. But during that 2015 period, Saturn went backwards and forwards over that same area, sextiling Makemake 3 different times. So it's been an ongoing breakdown, really, because then they met in this square energy in early April, and this time it was a more tension-filled square, while Saturn was at the end of Sagittarius before he moved into Capricorn. So that was kind of going back to the 2019 period and into 2020, which he did eventually in December. He went out of square with Makemake and then came back into square again. So they've had this ongoing, as I say, this ongoing dance, and they both went retrograde again. Saturn in April was back at the same spot of 2 degrees of Libra. Oh no, sorry, Saturn in April through to August. So that was during the 2021 period. And due to Makemake being as slow as a snail, he has an orbital year of 309 years. So it takes him quite a long time to move through the signs. He moves through different signs in different times as well. So you can't say that he moves through this sign a certain amount of years, and because of his really elliptical orbit, he will stay in some signs a lot longer than others. And he's been in Libra since 2015, and he's only just now about 8 degrees. So he's not going to leave Libra until about 2000, and I think it's 2044 or something. So he's still got quite some time to go. So this kind of energy, I feel, is really kind of coming back round. It's like we're going to be becoming much more, as all of this falls apart, as all of our structures fall apart, we're going to return back to this kind of common law understanding. And we are already seeing this taking place in the UK, where common law constables, as they're calling themselves, I believe, are actually going into police stations and actually doing something about this this medical tyranny, really, that's taking place. And they are demanding that the vaccine sites are to get shut down because it's a criminal case that is now taking place. But this is happening through the common law making the police aware, because the police have to be standing on their oath, and when they stand on their oath they're working for the people. So there is a connection there, and they need to be reminded about this, and this is something that I believe is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger over these coming years, especially during 2022, 2023, into 2024. And so so what's particularly interesting there as well with these meetings up of Saturn and Makemake was that they always happened at the very beginning of the signs, because obviously Makemake hadn't left Libra, or hadn't got that far into Libra, should I say. So there was this kind of connection always at the very beginning, and the very beginning of the sign, the first 10 degrees of the sign, the first decan as it's known, is the kind of early stages of, it's like the immature energy, so it's kind of learning about itself. When a planet moves into that sign, it's learning about itself in that energy, so it's like a new, totally new experience for that planet. So that's what seemed to happen during that time, which was very interesting. It was like re-understanding, if you like, that energy. And also the fact that Makemake is the higher octave of Saturn as well. So I feel as though he was kind of giving him these downloads, giving Saturn these downloads of kind of like, you know, you can't keep up this kind of restrictive, how can you put it, like blocking people's rights energy. It's just not universal. Man-made versus universal, and universal is going to win out eventually. So sorry, my nose is very itchy. So in Capricorn, with Saturn in Capricorn, we were learning to release old established traditions, patterns and habits in order to achieve a level of self-mastery. And when Saturn and Pluto came together in their major conjunction in January 2020 at 22 degrees of Capricorn, it signified the end of Saturn's restrictive reign that has been felt through the structures of establishments, governments, corporations and power being concentrated, held via a small number of dynastic families with huge amounts of influence. And so just after this occurrence, Saturn again connected with Makemake in early spring of 2020 as he crossed over the 0 degree mark of Aquarius. And once again they met at the early degrees, only this time it was in a harmonious trine. And it's kind of been since that time that this energy is kind of shifting and moving more into this kind of common law that is kind of building up all over the globe, all around the world. Things like the Nuremberg trials, this is all kind of based on the common law of the people, of do no harm. So so yeah, they met in this harmonious trine, and they're both in air energy, air elements, so all about the mind and thinking and communication, but also to do with, at that time, Saturn had begun to square Uranus as well. So Saturn was also kind of like that old energy beginning to meet with that new futuristic energy of bringing the new in, while Saturn, energy of Saturn, literally trying to kind of hold it all back, which is in many ways why in the US, for instance, everything seems to have gone backwards in time. And you literally hear them talking about like going back to the 1970s, and it's kind of like that's where that energy is taking us back in time rather than letting us kind of go forward into this new dimension. It's kind of trying to hold things back. So this Saturn square Uranus that has played out over the whole of 2021 and will continue into 2022 is setting the stage for the return of the sky god Uranus, or Caelus as the Romans knew him. He is in fact the only one of our planetary system still given his Greek name. Uranus was usurped from his throne by his son Saturn, Kronos, Greek version. And Makemake has been helping to put Saturn back in his rightful place as the son of Uranus, and so restore the rightful balance of their father and son relationship, as well as bringing back the cosmic order of things. Uranus, who is now the official ruler of Aquarius, reclaims his position from Saturn, who is known as the original ruler of the water bearer sign. So this is truly a battle between the light of Uranus and the dark of Saturn, and this is how it came through to me. This is how it was given to me as an understanding. And so the light of Uranus and the dark of Saturn, which is said to be that eternal struggle between good and evil, which is playing out. And as I was writing this, it came through very strongly as that Christian idea of God in the heavens fighting his adversary Saturn, which is Uranus, and fighting his adversary Satan, which is basically Uranus and Saturn, those two energies, for the rulership of the physical domain, because Uranus was the original ruler. He was the sky god. He was one of the first gods. He gave birth to Saturn. Saturn usurped Uranus, his father. Let me just catch up with what I was saying. So yeah, and also Saturn is said to rule our physical domain because Saturn is the last planet that we can see with the physical senses. We can literally see Saturn with our eyes, whereas we cannot see Uranus unless we have a telescope or something, binoculars. Good pair of binoculars will probably work as well, but you need something to be able to see Uranus in the sky. So that's why Saturn is seen as that kind of constricting, physical, dominant energy on the physical plane. But things have kind of shifted in that whole area since the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, but also when Saturn and Jupiter met up together in Aquarius at the very 0 degrees of Aquarius. It kind of shifted that physical domain energy, so where it's not going to be as dense. It's like things are shifting into a less dense 3D, less dense energy, and moving into this more vibrational energy, which is what this Uranus electrifying energy is all about. It's kind of bringing this awareness back to us that everything is electrical, that we ourselves are electrical, that we live in a electrical universe. So and this is kind of coming through as I'm speaking. This isn't kind of what I've been written down, so I'm going to go back to what I have written down here. So how this came through and what I was kind of picking up was that this is that final battle that is written about in the Bible in the final days. And we are living through the final days of Pisces energy as we move into the Aquarian energy ruled by Uranus. But we are kind of that is the battle that is taking place at this time, has been this Saturn squaring Uranus energy, the father and the son, kind of the light and the dark in many ways, the freedom versus the restriction, because Uranus is all about freedom, it's about breaking free, breaking through, whereas Saturn is all about the kind of holding on to and keeping things traditional and the older way of doing things. So that was just how it came through to me, which I just thought was very interesting. As we're kind of moving more into that age of Aquarius, the age of enlightenment, of illumination, or kind of will it be the age of annihilation, with all this speaking out there about, you know, this possible third world event that could be happening very soon between kind of the superpowers and things. There's a lot of talk about it. I don't really take a lot of notice of it, but I know that it's being kind of put out there into the psyche. And, you know, the annihilation of the human race as we know it. In my own personal opinion, I see these two great giants being represented on the earth plane as the kind of the US and the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, you're not supposed to mention. So one obviously is the Uranus energy, and one is obviously the Saturn energy. So again, kind of the father sky god energy and the Satan adversary energy, which again, in my personal opinion, is due to the astrological aspects it's experienced over the last few years. I believe that it's already collapsing anyway, like the CCP, the Saturn energy there is already on its way out. And at the same time, the US is fast approaching, as I was saying, its Pluto return, when Pluto literally will be in that same place of 27 degrees 33 minutes of Capricorn, where it was at the signing of the Declaration of America. So for the first time since then, Pluto is going to return to that spot. So it is a major, major event which is affecting the whole world. It's not just America that's being affected by this, because in some ways America is like that new world that is being rebirthed. It's how's it going to be rebirthed is the question. So so it's very similar energy, because again, America is in a war. It is literally kind of like fighting for its life, if you like. Only this time it's a new enemy that it's fighting. You know, at the time it was fighting the British to get its freedom from the British, but now it's got a new enemy, and you know, like this godless, unspiritual, incompassionate, inhumane and brutal regime that is trying to dominate the world as we know it. So going back to Uranus again, it was said in Greek mythology that he was the progeny of Gaia, who is the personification of Earth, and the mother herself, who was born out of chaos at the beginning of time. And chaos is one of the energies of Uranus, interestingly enough. It is also said that she birthed Uranus without a father and as an equal to herself, where she made him her husband. They were the primordial couple, with Uranus in Taurus represented by Gaia herself. It's like the two have now reunited as the sky god and the earth mother. At a time in our history when Uranus and Aquarius energy are both being strongly activated. So interestingly, in the Greek story, it was their son Kronos, Saturn, with the help of his mother, Gaia, who castrated the sky god, which was symbolic of stealing his power, his masculinity, and his ability to lie with Gaia and procreate. And there's a whole other story around that as well. If you're interested in Greek mythology, I suggest you go and look that up and see why that actually happened. So during this new moon in Aquarius, opposing Makemake in Aries, we find Chiron sitting at 9 degrees 16 minutes. And this is the energy of healing our deeply held wounds, which in Aries relates to the self, our ego, the wounded warrior. So these wounds do not necessarily have to be from this lifetime. They can often be generational, ancestral, or our conditioning, which we may have carried all our lifetime without being aware of it. And conditioning often comes from past generational, passed down history. It may be that we also hold on to trauma from previous lifetimes. All or any of these on some level can control how we react in certain situations, like trigger points within our psyche that can take us back emotionally without us realizing we are reacting from that place of hurt and pain. With the Sun and Moon both sextile Chiron, as well as both retrograde Venus and Mars, the ruler of the sign that Chiron is in, so Chiron is sitting in Aries, which Mars rules, and they're both square. Venus and Mars are both square to Chiron as well, so that is again affecting us on a very personal level, because both Venus and Mars are personal planets. The Moon and the Sun are also personal planets. So the only personal planet that isn't connecting with Chiron at this time is Mercury. So we have 4 out of our 5 personal planets all being hit by this Chiron energy, which is kind of forcing this transformational healing to take place. It's like really having to release a lot of that past history in order for us to be able to move forward without that baggage. I mean, that's really what that's all about. But it's going to be really strong because the Sun and Moon are going to kind of highlight it. Moon, the emotions, the Sun, the spirit, the fire, our personality is kind of like hitting that spot as well. So this is adding an extra emphasis and attention to this healing energy around the need of coming together in order to share in this collective experience of reclaiming our birth given rights, and recognize our commonalities and not our differences. So as Mars is ruled by, as Mars also rules our blood as well, we may hear themes around this topic, or could be like coming under the spotlight in the full glare, like it's going to be spoken about a lot more. Blood related issues in general are going to be kind of becoming more brought into the mainstream, I suppose, because of the fact that these are all very personal planets that are being affected at this time. So yeah, we're kind of like going to hear a lot more about those Mars related themes as well, of the self, and also our autonomy as well over ourself. So Chiron is kind of healing that wounded warrior, that wounded part of ourself that hasn't kind of had that strength and courage to stand up and kind of speak our truth who we are and what we're here to do. But that is all kind of changing as well. That's what Chiron's doing at this time. So yeah, Maka is going to be staying in that sign of Libra right the way through until 2444. So there's going to be some interesting kind of connections being made during that whole period of time with that higher octave cosmic balance, cosmic law energy coming in very strongly. And it is going to be working, of course, on our masculine and feminine energies being in Libra, and our relationship around those energies as well. So very much in the spotlight at this time is the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus, who is being contacted by 7 different energies all together, making this a supercharged moon. It truly is like supercharged. We have the Sun, the Moon, Saturn, all square, pushing us into radical, spontaneous, innovative and collaborative ways of being, doing and thinking. We also have Mars and Venus, both in harmonious, easy flowing trines from Capricorn to Taurus, as well as a wonderful, supportive, expansive sextile from Jupiter in Pisces, opening us up to a myriad of potential possibilities as to which direction do we want to take our relationships and our life in as things begin to move forward again. In the background to these more direct and obvious energies, we have Clarico, the wife of Chiron, at 4 degrees 42 minutes of Aquarius. She is also in a beautiful supportive sextile with her husband, as well as being square with Uranus. She has been aiding us by softening the conflict and tension as we continue to grow through these massive changes. Interesting, Clarico's orbital path moves between Saturn and Uranus, always encouraging us not to become too extreme between the traditional, more rigid mindset and the overly eccentric rebel for rebellious sake. Clarico is the energy of service to others through holding a sacred space for life, changing events to take place. A sacred space for life-changing events to take place. I actually had another thought going through my head at the same time as I was trying to read that. And the thought that was going through my head was Clarico being the kind of service to others, which she is, which is a very kind of Virgo energy. And Chiron already is part ruler of that Virgo energy. It kind of fits in with the two of them together in that Virgo space. So anyway, she is known as the spiritual midwife, as she would help with transitional situations, such as during childbirth, healing from an illness, and being present during the ultimate experience of leaving the physical realm. So she has been there for some time. While Saturn was retrograde, she was kind of in the background there as well, kind of holding that space during this period of Saturn and Uranus being square to each other. So she has been kind of trying to like hold that sacred space for this birthing of the new to take place. So we are experiencing a heck of a lot of different energetic frequencies, all being directed at Uranus. Like trying to have a conversation with 7 people all at once, all demanding attention, solutions to problems, and creating new ideas and visions for the future. As it is Uranus we are dealing with, we can expect even more chaos, unexpected breakthroughs, raising of awareness, and awakenings within the populace, along with the demand for truths, freedoms, and in Taurus we will have the endurance, tenacity and insight to stay fixed on a certain point or problem, and not to lose sight of what's most important to us, as all the madness swirls around us on the outside. And believe you me, it's going to swirl. So once again, we are likely to see more massive upheavals taking place within our 3D realm, such as earthquakes, volcanoes, storms, solar flares, which interestingly we just have had on the 31st. A big solar flare left the sun and is about to hit the earth. I think it's either today or later, early hours of the morning of the 2nd. But either way, this big solar flare, M1.1, is coming our way, so it will have an effect on our energetic electrical charged body, which is already very charged up with this Uranus energy. So there's going to be a lot of hyper active energy going on, like very explosive. It is explosive, eruptive energy. So again, earthquakes, volcanoes, shifting of the planet in general, and also changes within the magnetics. And again, I feel that that's why the birds and the animals and things are being already kind of being affected. I kind of felt it the other day when I was out for a walk. It was kind of like I could feel the agitation in the air. So yeah, so I was just about to read that as well. And also, interestingly, before I say anything about that, was also with the magnetics. I've just recently heard that something has been discovered about magnetic connections in the universe. They're not quite there with it yet, as in their understanding of it being electrical, or talking about it as an electrical thing, like Birkeland currents, etc. If you're interested in that, maybe go and look up Birkeland currents to find out how they work and what they are about. But it is all about electrics, and Uranus is all about that electrifying, lightning energy. So we are going to hear a lot more about this topic in general over these next few years, and it's going to totally change the way that the planet is kind of powered, shall we say, our own form of getting electricity, etc., etc. It's what I'm going to say about that. So anyway, as the effect it will have on the animals, yeah, so I do think that we should listen out and look out for odd behaviour from pets, but most especially birds at this time, as they are air creatures, so they are kind of up there in all that kind of frenetic, chaotic energy that is bombarding the planet at this time as well. And they will be picking up on these electrical, like Uranian surges of energy. So watch out for stories about weird and wacky behaviour from animals, but birds in particular. As everything is connected, this will have a knock-on effect within the political body of governance, as well as all this kind of chaotic energy comes into our planet. The established systems, corporations, again, big dynastic families, especially now that the moon's nodes have set up home in Taurus and Scorpio, expect to see the shocking, dirty secrets and corruption become more and more exposed through media sources you wouldn't usually expect to cover it. As Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, that chattering monkey mind, kind of monkey gossiping, like, have you heard this, kind of like on the grapevine kind of thing, and the truth will out. So Mercury himself is slowing right down, getting ready to station direct at midnight on the 4th at 24 degrees 22 in Capricorn, and this is a big wow day astrologically. I mean, when I looked at it, because I was just looking at the fact of when Mercury stationed retrograde, and I was like, no way. No, you have got to be kidding me. So we have Mercury, the planet of communication, decision making and fickleness, conjunct Pluto, who is all about power, finalities and transformational growth, at 27 degrees and 2 minutes. Conjunct. So the two of them are conjunct, Pluto and Mercury. Mercury at 24 degrees, Pluto at 27 degrees, and they are both in sextile with the South Node at 27 degrees in Scorpio, which is our collective past karma, what we need to release in order to grow. And at 27 degrees 43, which in Scorpio means we are now dealing with some dark, heavy, hidden secrets around the Pluto-ruled themes of sex, especially the kind that needs to be kept quiet, the desire for power that has no limits, the corrupt side of money, tyranny, and all things toxic and poisonous to the soul coming up to the surface. So these are all themes that we are going to be dealing with and hearing a lot more about. And they're kind of being fired up at this time as Pluto is in direct sextile at 27 degrees, and Mercury is also connecting to that South Node point as well. And of course they're also trining at the same time over to the North Node, which is where we are heading, the new energy of Taurus, all about our kind of stability, our values, what we possess, our possessions in the sense of, I always think of it more in the sense of what it is that works for us rather than what it is that works against us. So it's the kind of energy that we need in order to kind of sustain ourselves, because Taurus basically rules all of the senses, all of them. So it's that sensual world. How does it feel? Does it feel good? Do we like it? Is it good for us? Is it not? Because it is also opposite Scorpio, so there is always that kind of juxtaposition between those two energies as well. So we have to be careful with Taurus as well to not overindulge. There is always that warning there as well. So so at the 60-degree angle on the other side of both Pluto and Mercury on this 4th of February, as Mercury stations direct out of his retrograde, we have more sextiles with the Moon, our emotions, which represents the people, our soul, collective energy, and the Moon is at 21 degrees 35, and she is conjunct Neptune, which is our deep subconscious, kind of the realm of fantasy and what's not yet been revealed. And she is also at 21 degrees 31. So not only do we have Pluto and Mercury conjunct on one side, so we have two sextiles going on, which is that South Node, and then on the other side we have the Moon and Neptune, also sextiles. So Pluto and Mercury are kind of in the middle of these two 60 degrees sextiles. And the Moon and Neptune are both very sensitive planets. They're highly kind of attuned to our feelings, our emotions, our intuition, our instinct. They feel, both of them, very deeply, very strongly. Both rule water signs, so they're both water related. Intuition, that feeling, that knowing. And because they are so close together, they are attuning, resonating and amplifying all of this energy. Neptune being the higher octave of Venus, she is also all about universal love and compassion. And so we are really going to be feeling this energy really strongly at this time. And of course Mercury having just stationed is also amplifying that energy of himself as well, that Mercury energy. But with this Neptune and Moon energy, it could, because it is so powerful, it could leave us feeling a little raw, a little open and kind of vulnerable. And yet at the same time, it's on a harmonious level of kind of bringing things from the subconscious up from the depths, if you like, to be again kind of communicated or let go of or released or maybe even written down, or but somehow kind of like being put out there. And this is kind of bringing this awareness as well of this sense of our connection to everything as both channeled through our inner intuitive knowing. And both of these planets are also in a very powerful kind of tense standoff square with Black Moon Lilith as well. She's at 22 degrees 13 of Gemini. And Black Moon Lilith is like the feminine version of Pluto. She's kind of secrets and darker, seedier, taboo, shadow side of ourselves that we don't want to show the world, the side that we keep hidden. And on some level, there is other kind of higher extremes to that as well. So she's also the dark side of the moon, so that's kind of where we're coming from. The dark side of the moon is the side that we never get to see, we never get to view it, so we also don't want to put out that kind of side of our own nature as well. But she's also making an uncomfortable and doesn't sit right quincunx to the south node, so the Black Moon Lilith energy is also connecting to that south node energy, which is connecting to the Pluto Mercury energy as well. So it just feels like there is something that is going to come up from the depths at this time around the 4th of February, or from the 4th of February forwards, or maybe just before, maybe just after this new moon takes place. There is something, it feels like kind of that purging energy is starting, it's beginning, and it's going to build and build and build. And of course the south node, Black Moon Lilith is in the sign of Gemini, ruled by Mercury as well. So as we're saying, Mercury having just stationed to go direct is also going to bring back up the kind of Gemini, or is kind of going to bring out that amplify that need for communication. So this kind of communication that we're talking about is about things that kind of have been kept buried and have been kept hidden. Because Gemini represents communication, information, data, gossip, difficult to listen to and hear stories around children as well, will all be magnified because of Black Moon Lilith sitting in Gemini as well. And so as Mercury the detective will not only dig up the dirt and ask questions, he will then share it with Pluto in order for it to be purged through the creative destruction process and revealing of deeper layers of truths. So it's kind of like the truth is going to come out, whether we're ready for it or not. It's going to kind of come out in this kind of spillage. It feels like this spillage, this kind of purging energy. So in Capricorn, this relates to the structural established systems kept in place through the belief of not questioning tradition, hierarchy and patriarchy, because of course, they've been there for so long. It's kind of like, that's just how it is, that's how it's always going to be. The experts who we are supposed to just accept and conform to through that rigid use of restrictive dictates of its ruler, Saturn. So we have all this occurring on the 4th of February, but that is not all. As sitting in the exact middle of Aquarius, we have both the Sun, our spirit and personality, at 15 degrees 7 of conjunct Saturn, actions, consequences and commitment to yourself, at 15 degrees 50. So we also have, bang in the middle, Neptune and the moon, Pluto, Neptune and the moon in Pisces, Pluto and Mercury in Capricorn, Sun and Saturn in Aquarius. So there's this strong kind of, all that part of the sky is really kind of activated at this time. The Capricorn energy, the Aquarius energy and the Piscean energy are all really strongly kind of resonating with each other. So of course Saturn's all about actions, consequences and commitment to ourselves as well. And of course, you know, Saturn and the Sun are still in that powerfully square with Uranus. So they are powerfully co-joined as well, because they are both at 15 degrees. Like Neptune and the moon are both at 21 degrees. Pluto and Mercury have recently come off of their own kind of exact conjunction as well, and with Mercury having just stationed, that energy is really strongly activated. So this Saturn and square, the square energy with Uranus and the Sun as well could feel like a time of hard work and struggle, like we are trying to move through concrete, as the Sun is going to highlight all the difficulties of leaving the past behind us in order to move into more innovative and as yet unexplored direction. This could even be dealing with old situations in new and inspiring ways, but we need to get ourselves out of the way and not be the blockage or resistance to letting it in. This is really going to feel like having to push past our own restrictive mindset and boundaries in order to be able to find the freedom to become the masters of our own destiny. Not feel bound by the rules and regulations of authoritarian dictates that could appear very suddenly and even more powerfully in our lives at this time. Both the Sun and Saturn are in trines with Black Moon Lilith as well. So this is also bringing the two air elements together, which represent the mind, the intellect, the lower and higher conscious awareness kind of working together with Gemini and Aquarius energies here. Of course, also Mercury being the lower mind, Uranus being the higher mind. This also includes the use of our everyday technology and the rights to our personal privacy, as well as galactic downloads, breaking through physical barriers, and quantum leaps forward into the mystery of the unknown. So Mars, the planet of action, has now moved a couple of degrees since the new moon. We're still talking about the 4th of February because this is such a big day. I kind of feel it's even bigger than the new moon energy in a way. It's kind of like the new moon energy has set this up. So at the new moon, Mars was about 5 degrees, I think. But he's now moved forward to 7 degrees, 37 minutes, and he's making a more powerful, an even more powerful sextile with Jupiter, who's also a very forward action planet. Both Mars and Jupiter being fire energy, action, doing, dynamic. And of course Jupiter is all about expanding our opportunities. So this is fired up energy, and Jupiter is in the dreamy, creative Pisces sign, which is telling us to think big, beyond the boundaries. There are no limitations to what we can dream up and achieve as we release and surrender what no longer works for us. Jupiter still continues his sextile from the new moon with Uranus. So he's also part of that expanding the Uranian energy, that kind of firing it up and bringing it out into this really kind of powerful, pushing things forward, breaking through those boundaries energy that we're experiencing at this time. So he's also adding that hope and optimism and a strong belief that we can do it, that it is possible, that a better future fueled with faith for this next cycle of humanity's own growth on an individual as well as collective level, which needs to include spiritual expansion and freedom to creatively express that spiritual expansion of who we are, to creatively express ourselves, is what we are kind of being pulled forward towards. So Jupiter and Uranus will align exact on the 17th of February at 11 degrees and 12 minutes, which feels like an emotional fireworks could be set off, with the moon in Virgo opposing Jupiter and just beginning to oppose Neptune, while she also trines Uranus, and they are also both trine to conjunct Mars and Venus. So this is setting up a trine, an earth trine, between these energies of the moon in Virgo, Uranus in Taurus, and of course Mars and Venus in Capricorn as well. So all those three, the earth energies, are all going to be activated at that time on the 17th as well, but I will talk probably more about that later because that comes after the next full moon. But it is about stability and steadfastness, and with both Jupiter and Neptune opposing the moon, emotions could be easily triggered, and with Uranus moving through Taurus, the earth herself is shifting. Possibly we will see more flooding around this date as well, because we are talking about water signs here, like with Pisces, Jupiter in Pisces, and just beginning to kind of oppose Neptune as well. So that is a possibility. So talking of triggering at this new moon in Aquarius, Mars at 5 degrees 36, which is where he is at this time, is just starting to become conjunct with Venus, who herself only just stationed direct on the 29th of January at 11 degrees and 4 minutes of Capricorn, at which time she was trine Uranus in Taurus and square with Chiron in Aries at 9 degrees and 9 minutes. Once again amplifying and really exaggerating the growing desire for our autonomy through our own choices of healing modalities, especially as the sun was also shining his powerful spotlight on Chiron in a beautiful, powerful, strengthening sextile at 9 degrees and 3 minutes. Or he is, he was at that time on the 29th of January. So this energy has also been bringing in some form of healing to all our personal relationships that needed to heal, as well as to give support and encouragement to those that needed to be allowed to finally close out the end of their cycle by letting go, thereby giving the healing permission to take place. This Venus retrograde cycle has also been about our values, and taking place in Capricorn, it has been about us realising that our values are not the same as the establishments, corporations, big businesses, heads of state, those who have made positions of authority for themselves. Nor do they have the right to force their values on anybody else. Whatever it is they believe we should value, our values are not for sale, and they are too important to allow others to have control over them, thereby giving away our autonomy. which we have done in a myriad of ways for far too long, allowing them to also have control over who we are. So in Capricorn, this Venus retrograde has been kind of questioning our values. What is we value? Why do we value it? Etc, etc. But I also feel that on some level our values have kind of been handed to us. Like, this is what you're supposed to value because we tell you that this is what you are supposed to value. So we've kind of lost touch with our own values, what we actually value, because these big corporations, these big businesses have been kind of telling us for so long now that this is how it is. And we're kind of waking up to that and kind of going, well, actually, no, that might be what you value, and our values aren't for sale. You can't buy our values by giving us these things that aren't really, when it boils down to it, of that much importance. You know, we can live our lives without these certain things in our lives. Almost in a way a kind of blackmail kind of sense. So or selling our soul to the devil, if you like. Saturn being that kind of devil energy again. Capricorn, Saturn, Satan, kind of all goes round in a circle. So anyway, so a few hours after Venus stationed, Pluto and Mercury came together exact at 26 degrees 50 minutes. This is the second time the two have met up, the first time being on the 31st of December 2021 at 25 degrees 53, and they will meet again on the 11th of February at 27 degrees 16 minutes as Pluto gets ready for his date with Destiny on the 20th of February 2022 at 27 degrees 33. So this 27 degrees is massive at this time. So if you've got anything at 27 degrees, check it out, because it's going to probably be being hit by something in the sky on your birth chart. Something is going to activate something if you've got something at 27 degrees. And one of the reasons that I'm saying that as well is because the full moon in in Leo is going to take place at 27 degrees. And not only is the sun 27 degrees of Aquarius at that time, moon 27 degrees of Leo. I don't know why that kind of keeps going out in my head. We also have 27 degrees, the south node in Scorpio, north node in Taurus. So there is going to be a grand cross in the sky with all the fixed signs at that time. So the 27 degree point is really, really important. And another reason that it's really important is because the US chart's moon is also 27 degrees of Aquarius as well. So that is also kind of really highlighting even more this emotional charged energy that is going to be taking place at the time that Pluto also hits that 27 degrees himself on the 20th of February. The full moon happens just a little bit earlier than that. So these Mercury-Pluto conjunctions are all about ending old storylines in order for the new to be written, which is why it's so fascinating for me personally that Mercury retrograded just before Pluto hits his return point of the USA chart. Everything in divine timing. So going back to the triggering of the Mars energy, Mars is conjunct Venus during this new moon, and as he moves forward, he will be covering the same ground and reactivating the same energy points as Venus has just retrograded over. Now back in 2020, Mars kind of did the same thing because he was late for the party in Capricorn there was a massive party in 2020 when there was like Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, I think Mercury was there. I don't think Venus was there at the time, I can't quite remember, but there was, I think there was about 5 different planets all in Capricorn at that time of that conjunction, that 2020 conjunction. But Mars was late to the party, so he came back over and reactivated all that energy again in 2020, which again is why we got this kind of huge knock-on effect. So not only did Saturn and Pluto come together to kind of bring something to an end, but then Mars kind of came in and reactivated it, and he's doing the same thing again now as well. He is going back over all that Venus retrograde energy, reactivating that same those same points. But not only that, he will also be activating that point of the 2022 degrees, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, yeah, so Venus, of course, having retrograded and stationed direct, she is now moving back through her shadow period. And because she is moving so slowly, after a short game of catch me if you can, with many near misses, Mars will finally reach her in an exact conjunction at 16 degrees 50 on the 16th of February. In Capricorn. So if you have anything at that 16 degrees, but basically, I mean, this is happening just again before the full moon in Leo, and during this chase, Mars is going to re-energize this part of Capricorn from 11 degrees right the way through to the 26 degrees 29-minute point of where Venus is going to come out of her shadow period. And so this is going to cover that 22 degrees point of 2020, the Pluto-Saturn conjunction that I'm going on and on about in a lot of my videos. And that will be happening on the 23rd of February. And that's just going to add that extra kind of boost to that energy again as well. So we may kind of see some knock-on effect from that, especially with Mercury also in his shadow moving between the two malefics as well. So at the time that Mercury stationed to turn retrograde, he was conjunct Saturn, and at the time he stationed to turn direct, he was conjunct Pluto. So he's basically kind of gone over both of these two energies, and he's kind of moving between the two of them as well. So he is also kind of activating that Saturn Pluto energy at the same time. So it's kind of bringing it all to a head at this time, and with Pluto just about to hit that 27 point as well, it's kind of really big energy that we are dealing with at this time. I mean, it's just, everything is just going to start kind of speeding up. The whole collapsing of everything is coming up to that point where it's just going to keep going. It's like that domino effect is coming in, that quickening energy. So anything else to add to that? Mercury's going to leave his shadow period on the 24th of February at 10 degrees 18 minutes of Aquarius. So also if you've got anything around those degrees as well, check that out for yourself, see which house placement that's in. Check out that 11 to 26 degrees house placement as well. It's worth checking out to see which house or houses, because it's quite a kind of wide area. It may cross over into another house as well, so you may have more than one house activated at that time. But it's worth checking out to see where it's going to manifest for you. And the Sabian symbol for the 27 degree point of Aquarius is an ancient pottery bowl filled with fresh violets. So this symbol shows the need to spread beauty and grace and purity of motive and feelings of contentment, which is very much Venus energy. She's all about beauty and grace and purity. And like we're saying, like the Taurus energy, contentment, does it feel good? Do I like it? Do I not like it? So the simpler, more natural response to problems and society often brings us a sense of refreshment and realignment with what is beautiful. Complications are more easily solved if a fresh and simple approach is taken, rather than the more complicated intellectual or highly charged emotional responses. So kind of try and stay in that more calmer energy when it all kind of starts really building up and taking off. So like a bowl of flowers, this symbol implies that by keeping your life pure and unclouded by bad news, negative emotions or thoughts, and maintaining a sense of hope and faith, you can not only be healthier but bring joy to others. Returning to ancient sources, flower and herbal remedies, beauty, setting standards for society, the mortar and pestle, dainty, small and lacy things, pottery bowls and fresh water. And the negative, more negative side of that is a lack of subtlety, insensitivity, shyness, being a shrinking violet, being dried up and withered from lack of water or emotions, and being taken advantage of. So those are the messages that I have for you at this time. I was going to quickly pull some reflection cards. Sorry about that. I just left them over there. So let's see. Let's just see what the reflection energy is at this time. What we're needing to reflect on. Messages from Source. What does Source want to tell us? At this time. For the collective, new moon in Aquarius. Okay, we've got 3, nope, possibly 4. So the first one is, those of you who have arisen in consciousness know of the reality of the changes and know that you must keep a stillness within, which is basically what I feel that Sabian symbol that I just read was all about. So that's very interesting. You can and you will be complete within yourselves by knowing and touching your light force within. You are now standing new and fresh on the threshold of your spiritual union with light. Very, very, very appropriate so far. You are developing a clarity, a perfect link to light. Your note will help you to unlock your immediate future like the key to a door. So, those are the messages from Source, Light Source, which of course at this time talking about that kind of spiritual battle between the light and the dark. Focus on the light, more light coming into the planet. Uranus is bringing in that kind of energy at this time, and it's just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. So I'm going to finish the reading there and say thank you very much to those of you who have listened to this reading. Thank you for those of you who have subscribed to my channel and have liked my videos. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, could you do so? If you're interested in finding out any more of the information that I'm putting out there, there is a subscribe button on the video which you can tap, and of course the bell comes up and you can decide whether or not you want to get the readings as and when I put them out and have a kind of notification. Also, if you haven't liked my videos, please could you do so, and if not, why not? But could you thumbs it up for me, because it just really helps to get the message out to a bigger, wider source. Not everybody out there is talking about the things that I'm talking about linked to the astrology and what is happening on a bigger scale at this time as well. So it would be really helpful for more people to know on a deeper level of what it is that is actually taking place and why it's all taking place, which is why I do these videos. So I would really appreciate it if you could help me to get that message out there to them. So I think that's everything. There is playlists, of course, new moon, full moon are there, and the sun signs as well. I haven't done any for a while. I am still working on getting out the 2022 videos as well. I still have to put more of those out, so they will be coming out. I do apologise for the lateness. I was not very well over the whole of the Christmas and the New Year period, and I am only just really getting into that kind of back into myself space again. So I will get on and get them done. Until I see you again, please take really good care of yourselves and anybody around you who you can, and many blessings for this new Aquarius moon.